particular chicken we're looking at today, they are called our Heirloom Chickens. And it's a cross between our white chicken and our brown chicken, so the breasts were a little larger. And that's because they're pasture raised, they'll go out of the building.
Rocky Oaks was started as an idea of mine. I was raised on a dairy down in Riverside, California, cow dairy, and had been a nurse for almost 40 years and wanted to do something different.
These dry rice hulls are very important. This is what keeps everything dry for the chickens to walk on.
We actually got our first goat not far from here, actually on the corner over here, and his name was Billy, and that's where we learned how much fun goats can be, and then we've had goats in our life since then.
What's real exciting is when we travel and I go in a restaurant and I see my name on the menu, the chefs love it.
Our ladies will go through this within a couple of hours. I've always been an animal lover. Dogs were probably our first love.
Another thing that makes our chickens very unique and different is we feed all of our chicken non-GMO feed that we make at our own feed mill. And it's a combination of corn, soybean meal, a vitamin pack, and a mineral pack.
We have one who likes to open the locks. That's Trisha.
Now, we're very high on animal welfare. It's a very big thing to us. I'm sorry, don't be scared. It's okay. You're gonna be a movie star.
I had 2 goats, then I had 5, then we had 7, which I would hand milk, and then we had like a little teeny micro creamery. I started making cheese, practicing different recipes, different things to find out what would be a good product to sell. And they're just kind of like a bigger dog. I think they have their own personalities and they're very devoted to you.
When I go shopping in Whole Foods in Fresno, sometimes I go in and pick up a couple of my rotisserie chickens and they're like, Mary, why are you doing that? And I go, well, because I'm so busy talking about chickens, I don't have time to cook them, so.
My vision for it is to have 30 milking does, we'll be milking year round. We cover the local farmers markets and maybe have some sort of outlet of cheese here on site.
We've been able to keep ourselves and other chicken farmers here in the San Joaquin Valley in business, and we're very grateful that we're still able to do that.
Our goal in supplying our chickens and our feed and our American products, so we're proud of it.
Yes, we are.
Production funding for American Grown, My Job Depends on Ag, provided by James G. Parker Insurance Associates, insuring and protecting agribusiness for over 40 years. By Garv Bennett, the growing experts in water, irrigation, nutrition, and crop care advice and products. We help growers feed the world. By Golden State Farm Credit, building relationships with rural America by providing ag financial services. By Brandt, professional agriculture, proudly supporting the heroes that work hard to feed a hungry world every day. By Unwired Broadband, today's internet for rural Central California, keeping Valley agriculture connected since 2003. By Hodges Electric, proudly serving the Central Valley since 1979. And by Valley Air Conditioning and Repair, family owned for over 50 years, proudly featuring Coleman products, dedicated to supporting agriculture and the families that grow our nation's food.
I grew up on a dairy down in Riverside, California. It was a cow dairy, and we never were involved in the milking, but we did a lot of the feeding. We drove trucks out and helped with feeding, things like that. And then we always would go visit my grandma out in the barn on Saturday mornings. She would then fix us breakfast, and we would watch TV, which we thought was a great time. But I would still remember her pulling that big old hose, washing things down, so they came from a big work ethic. Dad's family had been in a dairy business since he was a small child, and he and his brothers actually ran most of it. I chose goats over cows in that they're smaller and they're easier to handle for women. Goats are sometimes known as the cattle of women because of the size of them and women being able to handle them more than cows. The whole milking, cheese making process is each year the goats are bred. We milk them until they're about 2.5 months pregnant, and then they dry out. Since pregnancy's tough on a goat because of the weight of the goat and the kids product. We make cheese after 2 weeks after they've kidded. We give the babies milk and a formula, and we start using the milk to make cheese at that time. So we'll start typically making cheese in February and go until November. So this is Trisha. She broke her leg when she was a little gal, so she's extra spoiled, but she's healed up just fine. Typically, she's pregnant. We'll be kidding in February. She's pregnant with probably 2-3 kids. Kids usually weigh 6 to 7 pounds each, where the goat itself will probably weigh like 150. So that's why we're drying the goats out, so that they can focus on healthy kids and not milk production during dry season. Rocky Oaks has Nubian goats. We've chosen Nubians because of the high butter fat that they have, which is excellent for cheese making. They don't make as much milk, and they're not as great as moms as some other breeds of goat, but their milk is really wonderful. So here at Rocky Oaks, we have livestock guardians. There's our coyotes that do come around. The thing you worry about with your goats is you want to keep them safe. In an area like ours, there can be other dogs that come onto the place, or coyotes. So our livestock guardians stay with the goats. It's very interesting during kidding season. Every time a goat kids, they're excited about the new babies coming part of it. They know who's in the herd and will protect it. Blake and Barbara are our 2 guardians. Blake takes care of the outside, Barb's inside with the goats. Our pets for guardians are our donkeys, who are Ozzy and Harry, and we also have Orlando, who's our pet steer. He's bottle fed, so he's very tame. We used to be able to carry him. We became Rocky Oaks Goat Creamery because of our house. Actually, there's lots of rocks, and then we had a lot of oak trees where our house is, and then we had the goats. We're a creamery because we make a dairy product rather than a farm, since we really don't grow anything. So we became Rocky Oaks Goat Creamery.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm here to talk about our chickens and why all the products are named after me. I met my husband, Rick Pittman, at Cal Poly back in 1973. And he graduated, and then I graduated in 73. We both went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and he was raising turkeys with his father at that time. So in the 90s, he realized, wow, we've got to do something to stay in the turkey business, because one by one, the processors were leaving California. In 1998, he raised 5,000 turkeys, and he went back and did it the way his father did. He took the antibiotics out, and he made them free range, going in and out of the buildings, and he didn't know what to name them. And then one night he had a dream, and he realized he had to name them after me, Mary, because this is what I was looking for. I was always looking for something that was pure, no antibiotics. Our turkeys are just turkeys, our chickens are just chickens, and our ducks are just ducks. I was very sick for 30 years. I didn't know, all I knew was that every time I ate something, I got worse. So it took me 30 years to figure out what was causing that. So I was reading labels during this whole time, and I still do, always looking for a pure product. And this was way before there was Whole Foods, Sprouts, a lot of health food stores, natural grocers. This was just a long time ago. I finally found out that I had 8 silver fillings that were loaded with mercury. So basically, I was mercury poisoned for 30 years. It's the most highly toxic metal that exists. So if I had anything toxic, like white flour, sugar, or anything, I was really, really sick. So I'm kind of a magnet for bad foods. I know exactly, what's good and what isn't. So anyway, during this time, my husband kept going down to Los Angeles looking at all these health food stores, and he said I would love them, and someday he would have his turkeys and chickens there. So that's how we came about with the products being named after me.
So you were being forced out of business because all of the processors were leaving California?
Yes, they were all leaving California, and it was down to just one. And we never knew what we were going to be paid for the turkeys. And we just knew that they were gradually adding on their own farms. And so we knew that we were being pushed out. So we knew we had to get a process. My husband decided, I'm just going to risk everything, get a processing plant. I'm either going to go out with a boom or I'm going to make it. And so we were about 3 months away from closing our doors when Whole Foods found us, went over to Cal Poly, asked a professor that my son David had just had and my husband had 20 years before, do you know anybody that does turkeys and chickens? And he said, yeah, you got to talk to the Pittman family. The dad does the turkeys and the son does the chickens. And so that's what we did. We started gradually putting our chickens in Whole Foods in Los Angeles, which is their testing grounds for the United States, and we've been with them the last 20 years.
So my parents married whenever they were in their early 20s. Dad was a Dutchman that raised on a dairy that was brought over to my mom's house by actually her nephew, who was about her same age. They met and they got along, married, had 4 children. So Dad was the quiet Dutchman, which is why I make a Gouda, because it's a Dutch-style cheese, and we coat it in red wax, which is traditionally for the Dutch cheese. Mom being Spanish, Manchego is a Spanish style of cheese, which Mom was all Spanish. Actually, she started school speaking Spanish, and she loved red wine, so that's why we soak it in. Our Manchego is soaked in a red wine. It's to honor my heritage of my parents. Here at Rocky Oaks, we have been lucky enough to add hens to our group of producing ladies. So we have 170 hens now. We plan only 100 are laying, but come spring, all of them will be laying, and we have a lot of eggs that we'll sell at the farmers markets or probably here on site. Nice brown eggs. We have chickens that lay 3 colored eggs. Brown, white, and then the Araconda that do a variety of colors. We realize that taking care of your animals is of priority to us because you do get great products from them. So our goats are very spoiled. They're named after princesses and country western singers and treated accordingly. The hens are fed twice a day. They have inside houses to go in at night to keep them safe. Then we collect their eggs twice a day. The eggs are kept at below 65 during the week, and then we wash them prior to going to farmers market. Once they're washed, then they go into the refrigeration and kept under refrigeration until they're sold. As we expand our herd, what we've done is we are considered what's called a closed herd because we keep just goats from our place, from our does, and we have our own bucks that we use. We have done some artificial insemination this year to the second group, and I plan to keep a buck from one of our does, which we can use for breeding stock too. So to expand, what we do is we just keep a few of our girls from usually the good producers, or sometimes they're just too cute, so we keep them on that cause, and then we sell the rest of them. Typically, in this rural area, the does are sold for milk production. The bucks make excellent pets for a lot of people, or they go into grazing.
Actually, we were looking for a processing plant here locally, and we just missed buying one in Madera, where my husband grew up, and then we kept missing them, and he did come close to buying one in Los Angeles, but it's just too far away. It's just really better to be here locally where all the farms are. And so we were very fortunate to find an old fruit processing plant in Sanger, and we converted it to poultry. But what really makes our products unique and different is, particularly our chickens, is that we process them using the air-chilled method. My oldest son David kept going to Europe, and all the chickens in Europe are air-chilled. And he never liked the way the chickens in the United States were put in water. So the water-chilled chickens have 7 to 20% water that has 20 times more chlorine than what's in your swimming pool. Whereas we do this air-chilled method where we hang the chickens individually, we blast them with cold air, and that retains the real chicken flavor. That's what's one of the things that's made us very successful. And we also process our chickens very humanely. In Europe, they also use what's called the CAS system. They gently put the chickens to sleep, and that's what we have done also with our chickens.
Right here we got our half barrels. The half barrels are kind of a little protection for the birds to run inside and out. It gives them kind of a shelter. It also, it's an improvement to their animal welfare helpful, and which is something that we strive in our company, is to have the best animal welfare that we can have for the birds, because that's what it's all about, is caring for the birds and raising the bird right. And when you do that, the bird is less stressful, which will make it more tender, or the meat more tender, and the chicken will taste better.
They're in here for 25 to 28 days, and the heaters are automatic. They come on, they keep them at a certain temperature. And then after that, as you can see, these different openings all along the building here, they will go in and out, free range as much as they want all day long. And then in the summer, we have the cool cells where they come in and we keep it cool in here for them. So they'll go out in the early morning when it's real hot, and then they'll come back in. So this is just for the inside. We have lots of room for our chickens to roam, but it's real important to have these enrichments and perches and have as natural environment as we can. Another thing that makes our chickens very unique and different is we feed all of our chicken non-GMO feed that we make at our own feed mill. And it's a combination of corn, soybean meal, a vitamin pack, and a mineral pack. And my son Ben, he came out with the first non-GMO verified logo in the United States for non-organic chicken and also for organic chicken. He worked for a year with the USDA to develop this, and what he wrote is now the standard for the United States. That's right. That's my boy. These dry rice hulls are very important. This is what keeps everything dry for the chickens to walk on. It costs us a lot of extra money to do this, but this is part of what we do to make it humane for the chickens, keep the beds dry, as been suggested, and it's just really important for the health of the chicken. That's why it doesn't smell in our barns.
Goat cycle is that they come into heat every 21 days, and it's usually about during the fall. They're very traditional in what they're very seasonal. So they start coming into heat in the fall. We try and breed as early as you can so that you can have the production, and then they're pregnant for 5 months, so they'll kid in January. In prior years, we were able to have a few events here out at the Creamery and invite the public to come out and visit and enjoy our settings. We have Kids Day, which we're hoping to have this year. Even if with COVID, we're going to try and figure out something that's socially distancing correct that we can have people out to see. And so we'll have 2 separate kid days since we have 2 separate kiddings. So there should be one in March and then another one in May. We've been lucky that COVID hasn't impacted our business to the extent that it's impacted several small businesses, and that the goats always need to be milked, so all of our staff has kept their jobs. We're still making cheese, and we're doing it under safety, with safety guidelines in place. And the farmers market business, since it's essential, has been good for our markets. So our goats are milked twice a day. We usually milk at 6:30 in the morning and about 5 in the afternoon. Our barn is 100 feet away so that they each walk up the walk, and they all have their own order on what they go up into the stand. And you don't mess around with their order.
Because they know it.
They know it.
They actually know
Goats love routine. Rocky Oaks Goat Creamery is unique in that we want to stay small. We like to have the personal involvement with our animals and our production and the ownership of the place. And some of that can get lost in too big of a size. So we want to keep as small as we can. We were in a couple of restaurants before, with all the before COVID, and we were in Erna's Elderberry House, which used all of their different cheeses, and then we were in Trilio's in Clovis. My vision for the future of Rocky Oaks Goat Creamery is to have 30 milkers. We cover the local farmers markets and maybe have some sort of outlet of cheese here on site and with our eggs for people to come out and purchase on site. Shipping goat cheese gets real complicated in that, especially with the fresh cheeses, in that it's in our valley, whenever it gets nice and hot in the summer, is that they can perish very quickly. It's expensive to ship because you ship with ice, which ups your costs, and then you want to do it over the shortest period of time you can, like preferably overnight, so that you get the nice fresh product.
Yeah, these heirloom chickens, they are becoming more and more popular because they are a slower growing bird.
Not only are they just slower growing, but if you were to compare them side by side, there is more flavor in these slower growing breeds than they are in their standard white chicken.
Yes, it's a real favorite with the chefs. Basically my husband's father started turkeys in 1954, and then he continued on with it. And then when he got out of college, he decided, as he did, in 1998, he came out with Mary's Free Range Turkey. It was our 25th wedding anniversary. So he put my name and phone number on the back on the turkey hotline. He loves to answer and say, oh, some girls get diamonds, my wife gets turkeys named after her. So he's always kind of fun on the hotline when he says that. And then 5 years later, we came out with Mary's Free Range Organic Turkey and Mary's Free Range Heritage Turkey. And that was our 30th wedding anniversary. I said, honey, you gotta do better than this, okay? Well, then he did. He started naming geese after me and ducks and all kinds of different things. But it's been so exciting for us as Americans. We've always heard that if you work really hard, you can have your own business in America. But we are very humble and grateful that we have been able to stay in business, because all of the other companies are so much larger than us and have a lot of benefits that we don't have. But the consumer goes on the internet, they know we're honest, they know that what we do is what we say we do. I know buyers have come out here and they've seen this particular farm right here, and they go, wow, this is just like you have it on your videos. And I go, well, sure, isn't everyone like that? And they go, no, Mary.
You would think this barn would stink like you wouldn't believe. And you can hear stories where people can smell
farms 2 miles away.
Exactly, especially poultry. They're even known for that. But if you come to one of our farms, you can't even tell it smells like a chicken farm at all.
And we're basically a collection of a lot of small farms. We've been able to keep ourselves and other chicken farmers here in the San Joaquin Valley in business we've got our own processing plant. We make all of our non-GMO feed at our own feed mill in Hanford. We also have our own breeder farms and our hatcheries. So we've been able to keep ourselves going and other farmers as well. And we're very grateful that we're still able to do that. What's real exciting is when we travel and I go in a restaurant, I see my name on the menu and they'll have my chickens. And that's always real exciting to me, because I'm not sure where all they go. The distributors don't let me know. So our chickens have been very popular on menus on the West Coast for some time now. And so that's always exciting to meet the chefs, and they're always excited to meet us. And we're just grateful, like I said, to still be in business and to be able to supply such a healthy chicken. That's what's real exciting to me. It's been very exciting for me to provide a product that I would eat, because I'm very careful what I eat, and I'm just very thrilled that my sons have come in the business and have provided this wonderful product for all of us to enjoy.
Production funding for American Grown, My Job Depends on Ag, provided by James G. Parker Insurance Associates, insuring and protecting agribusiness for over 40 years. By Garv Bennett, the growing experts in water, irrigation, nutrition, and crop care advice and products. We help growers feed the world. By Golden State Farm Credit, building relationships with rural America by providing ag financial services. By Brandt, Professional Agriculture, proudly supporting the heroes that work hard to feed a hungry world every day. By Unwired Broadband, today's internet for rural Central California, keeping Valley agriculture connected since 2003. By Hodges Electric, proudly serving the Central Valley since 1979. And by Valley Air Conditioning and Repair, family owned for over 50 years, proudly featuring Coleman products, dedicated to supporting agriculture and the families that grow our nation's food.